That's what the delay. Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace Madana-gopāla Prabhu. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. We thank you all for being here as always. Today is the 30th day of April 2026, and it is Friday, the last day of the busy week. And it is our greatest honor that we have His Grace Madana-gopāla Prabhu speaking with us today. Srimad Bhagavatam, it's sweet, but because it was spoken by Shukadev Goswami, it's actually much sweeter. So we have many people speak Bhagavatam, but you will not taste it as sweet as you have a Vaishnava devotee speaking. And by Sri Guru Krishna's grace, we have a Vaishnava devotee speaking Bhagavatam with us today. So we encourage devotees to try to mute your microphones, and if possible, you turn on your cameras. So if I may borrow some phrase from His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, he oftentimes would say, we would like to see your blossoming faces. So it makes very personal. If it's impossible to turn on your cameras, that is also understandable. And Prabhuji, like Salika Prabhu was saying before we went live, we have 3 verses to cover today. So without further ado, you may take it over from here, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ade Prabhu. And my obeisances to all of you assembled Vaishnavas. Thank you for this opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam in your company. That's basically what we're going to be doing. I didn't really prepare much, so I'm just going to share share the verses, and we'll just read them together, and we'll have some discussion. So this is Canto 3, Chapter 17, verses 20, 21, and 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hiranyaksho nujastasya priyapriti kridanvaham gadapani divam yato yutsur murgayandranam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His younger brother Hiranyaksha was always ready to satisfy his elder brother by his activities. Hiranyaksha took a club on his shoulder and traveled all over the universe with a fighting spirit just to satisfy Hiranyakashipu. Purport. The demoniac spirit is to train all family members to exploit the resources of this universe for personal sense gratification, whereas the godly spirit is to engage everything in the service of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu was himself very powerful, and he made his younger brother Hiranyaksha powerful to assist him in fighting with everyone and lording it over material nature as long as possible. If possible, he wanted to rule the universe eternally. These are demonstrations of the spirit of the demoniac living entity. Verse 21. Tam viksha dusahajavam ranat kancananupuram vajayantya srajajushtam sanyasta mahagadam. Hiranyaksha's temper was difficult to control. He had anklets of gold tinkling about his feet, and he was adorned with a gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace on one of his shoulders. And verse number 22. Mano viryavarotsiktam asranyam akuto bhayam bhita nilirire devas takshatrishta ivahaya. His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon conferred upon him, had made him proud. He feared death at the hands of no one, and there was no one checking him. The gods, therefore, were seized with fear at his very sight, and they hid themselves, even as snakes hide themselves for fear of Garuda. Purport. The Asuras are generally strongly built, as described here, and therefore their mental condition is very sound, and their prowess is also extraordinary. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, having received the boon that they would not be killed by any other living entity within this universe, were almost immortal. And thus they were completely fearless. Purport ends here. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Janashalakaya Chakshunitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, has opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. I further offer my obeisances unto lotus feet of all the assembled Vaishnavas and seek your kind blessings and permission that we may reach Srimad Bhagavatam together. So I was reflecting on this topic. And also I was reflecting on what's going on this weekend. This is something to reflect about. So let's begin by thinking deeply. Across cultures, across tradition, across time, there is a recurring story. What is that? The rise of arrogance, the apparent triumph of power, the suffering of the righteous people, and then a divine reversal happens. So this weekend, in much of the Western world, we're reflecting, and also a lot of Africa as well, reflecting on Good Friday. Yesterday is Good Friday. It is marking the apparent defeat of God, or God's great servant, Jesus Christ. And Easter, the triumphant return. You see. And today in the Bhagavatam, we are witnessing a similar moment. Not the crucifixion, but the rise of demoniac power before there is some kind of divine intervention. Because before the Lord appears, typically we see the pattern. The adharma begins to fully manifest in a big way, and then the Lord shows up. So when we look at this verse number 20, we get a sense of the psychology of demoniac loyalty. Here we see Hiranyaksha is always ready to satisfy his elder brother. This is like a good quality, right? It's like nice. It's so nice. He's loyal to his brother. I'll do what you want, brother. This is deep. Prabhupada reveals something very subtle. Even demons have love, have loyalty. They have family bonds. Just because they're a demon doesn't mean they don't have respect for family bonds. No. And just because someone has a deep respect for family bond doesn't mean they cannot be a demon. You see, something for us to note. But what's the difference between demons and devotees? The devotee family, they cooperate to serve Krishna. The demoniac family cooperates to exploit Krishna's creations. That's the key difference. Hiranyaksha, the younger brother, he's not just acting randomly on his own. He's acting in relationship with his brother. He's trying to please his brother. It's a noble thing, to please your brother. Something for us to think that this verse is not just about demons. It's about the concept of misdirected affection. Even in our spiritual practice, in our spiritual lives, we must always ask, who is it that I'm trying to please? What system am I reinforcing by my actions? Because affection is powerful. Affection drives us to do things. Affection can liberate, or it can bind us to the world. On Good Friday, we see another kind of loyalty. The followers of Jesus Christ, they're also bound by affection. They loved him. But what happened? The worldly powers that tried to crush the divine influence of Jesus Christ. And Christ's loyalty to the truth, it led to apparent loss. Apparent loss. Not real loss, but now here it's similar. Hiranyaksha's loyalty leads him to fight the universe. A devotee's loyalty leads one to surrender to the Supreme. So loyalty is there. It's the same energy of loyalty, but the opposite direction, you see. This loyalty in and of itself is not noble. It's only noble if it's directed the right place, see. Then we have to think about this. The Bhagavatam describes Hiranyaksha in detail in the next verse. Golden anklets. What's the point of talking about his golden anklets? He's wearing his Vaijayanti mala, Vaijayanti garland. This garland, it always stays fresh. It shows that it's a victory, garland of victory. It means wherever he goes, he'll always be victorious in battle. And he has this massive mace, this gada, known as gada pani, and he has uncontrollable energy. We wonder why is Shukadeva Goswami giving so much detail, so much visual detail, amazing golden anklets, and you can see. What is the point? You can just say, he's a demon going around. No. The point he's trying to make is that illusion or maya is attractive. You see, and sometimes we get attracted by these things. So he's trying to show that just because something is attractive, glittering like the golden anklets, doesn't mean that it's going to be necessarily good. It could be associated with a demon. So be careful, not be trapped and sucked into something just because it's attractive. Maya is attractive. One thing we should reflect on this point in this verse. Remember, we should always keep in mind that Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami, they're not wasting words. There's a reason why they get into certain details. There's a reason why they gloss over certain details. There's always a reason for us to think. It creates a deep impression on us. What is the key teaching here? Demonic life is not necessarily ugly looking. In movies, they always show the demons with like a big cut over here and his teeth all crooked and like nasty look. No. Hiranyakashipu was, even Ravan, he described as a very handsome man, really good looking. But when they make the movies, they try to make him look ugly because his heart is ugly. But he's actually very good looking. Like women couldn't stop staring at him. He was just so attractive. Demoniac life is not necessarily ugly looking. In fact, it is often charismatic, attractive, beautiful, powerful, impressive. Hiranyaksh looks like a hero. That's what the verse is showing. We can look around in the modern world today, right? We can reflect. Today's world, what do they glorify? Wealth, dominance, aggression, the ability to control, sense of achievement without surrendering to a higher power. We all glorify these things, get glorified in the world. They get glorified in the news. There's magazines around it. People who manage to make a lot of wealth in a very short time, gain a lot of influence at a young age, or get control over many, many people or countries or resources. That's what we glorify. We are in awe of it. This is Hiranyaksha consciousness. That's what Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami, they're trying to highlight this to us. Hiranyaksha is good looking and he was well dressed and he had these ankle bells and it's amazing. And he had this very powerful mace. If it's just a portrait, you're like, wow, this guy is awesome. I want to be his friend. I want to be like him. If you don't know the background and the foreground of his history and this and that, we will be impressed by him, you know? Now contrast this with the Easter scene, right? The Good Friday. Jesus on the cross, externally defeated, no ornaments, no weapons, no power display. Unfortunately, he's being tortured, he's bleeding. Yet, that so-called defeat becomes the greatest victory because he's a bhakta. See? So similarly, in bhakti also, external power is not real strength, ultimate strength. Maybe in the moment it may seem like it's being defeated. In the moment it may seem like, okay, Christ is done for, finished. The real strength is what? The real strength is being aligned with the absolute truth, being aligned with the principles of the Lord, being aligned with Krishna consciousness. That is the real strength, is alignment, not the external show-off strength. Then we go on to verse number 22, where it says, Mano virya varo siktam. His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon that he had got. He had that you won't be killed by any ordinary people. It made him very proud. He wasn't afraid of death anymore. So the heart of today's discussion is this idea of the intoxication of power. Hiranyaksha is described as proud due to his strength, empowered by his boons, fearless, utterly unstoppable, terrifying even to the demigods, right? It says that the demigods, like, where is it? Yeah, it says the demigods therefore were seized with fear at his very sight, and they hid themselves even as snakes hide themselves from fear of Garuda. So let's break this down. Okay, this verse says manovirya. Manovirya, virya means this kind of heroic strength of the mind. Manovirya, mental strength. What does that mean? I know what I'm doing. Okay, very confident. I know what I'm doing. It's a kind of the hubris that comes with that, manovirya. Then it mentions vara. Vara means the boons, the benediction, the empowerment. In other words, I have backing. I have solid backing of major powers. On top of my own mental strength, I have also backing of these boons. I have backing of success. I have backing of validation. I have all these things. So then there's more pride, right? On top of that, there's Utsiktam, which means the overall superiority, sense of superiority. I'm very proud. I'm better than everyone else. Then akuto bhayam. Akuto bhayam means there's no consequence, it's fearless. No consequences apply to me. I am immune, even above the law. I can shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and nobody can do anything to me. You know, you might have heard that statement. But this is fearlessness. No consequences apply to me. And they get away with it for years. You know, akuto bhayam. We see these examples in front of our eyes. This sort of hubris and prideful fearlessness, so-called fearlessness, is not always spiritual. There are two kinds of fearlessness. The true deep fearlessness that devotee possesses. What is the devotee's fearlessness? Krishna will protect me. That's the devotee's fearlessness. And the demon's fearlessness, no one can touch me. That's his fearlessness. You see the difference? Krishna will protect me. No one can touch me. Two different things. Externally, they're similar. Internally, they're opposite. Actually, this idea, no one can touch me, arises from a deep sense of insecurity because deep inside they know they're insecure. Whereas a devotee deep inside knows, is confident Krishna is always there for me. That's the key difference. And those deep insecurities bring all kinds of bad behaviors come out. I can get away with this, you know. I can behave to anybody I like. When you're a superstar, you can get away with it. You know, they say things like that. That's a demon's thing. No one can touch me. But they're similar, but they're opposite. The devotee and demon. Now, another interesting image that was presented to us was the demigods hiding like snakes, afraid of Garuda. You see, so this is kind of interesting. The Bhagavatam doesn't stick to stereotypical analogies. See, here the snakes, who are the snakes here? The demigods. And who is the demon Garuda? Like Hiranyaksh is given an analogous parallel to Garuda, which is so weird. Garuda is the devotee of the Lord. Why are you comparing Garuda to Hiranyaksh? Yet, this analogy is given for a specific reason. To first of all, throw you off your guard, you know. And it shows that even goodness can become intimidated. When the evildoers are aggressive, when they're powerful, when they're organized, goodness and the good people can get intimidated and things flip. The script gets flipped. It happens all the time. See? That's why this image is being given, that sometimes unexpectedly, you know, even the demigods who are generally protected by the Lord face certain reversals like this. Of course, it is this whole Leela is put together to kind of create more sense of dependence. Demigods then approach the Lord, you know, approach Krishna. They approach Brahma, of course, and Brahma prays to the Lord, and Lord appears as Varahadev out of his nostrils. So we know that story that happens. But not before the demigods really start freaking out and running away, and hiding like a snake in a hole, you know, running away from Garuda. I was thinking on Good Friday, right? The same kind of parallel is there. There's a powerful state, organized system, the confident rulers. They're against Jesus Christ. And this divine representative, who is a Vaishnava, who is a devotee of the Lord, he appears vulnerable. He's being tortured in front of everybody. Like Haridas Thakur was tortured, you know, in front of so many people, whipped almost to the point of death, really. So it looks like evil is winning. Just like here, it looks like, you know, evil is winning because the demigods are hiding away. It puts us who are reading the story in a little bit of a stress, like, wow, this is a very tense situation. How's it going to resolve itself? Then something for us to think about is the philosophical takeaway for us. There's a principle of the turning point. Something turns, the story turns. Every story at this point has a turning point. It'll turn. In both these traditions, in our Easter tradition as well as in our Bhagavatam tradition, the darkness peaks before there is divine intervention. It says is always darkest before dawn. So here, before Varahadev appears, Hiranyaksh becomes powerful and he rises. He throws the earth into the ocean, all kinds of stuff. If you have seen that movie, it's very well made, this movie, Mahavatar Narsimha movie. They show this scene of Hiranyaksh throwing Mother Earth into the water. And it's quite beautifully done. But here you see it's like a dark situation. And Mother Earth is feeling tortured and scared. So Hiranyaksh has become powerful just before Varaha appears. And in the Easter tradition, of course, just before resurrection, the crucifixion occurs. Now we might ask, why does Krishna even allow this sort of thing? It's like so hard. It's very discouraging, maybe. So there are certain things why these leelas take place, certain reasons. Krishna allows this to fully expose the false ego. When we read about these stories, if we are intelligent, we will reflect more upon ourselves. And do I have elements of Hiranyaksh in my heart? Do I have elements of being selfish, exploitative, having the kind of so-called fearlessness that I can get away with something by flaunting the laws of the Lord, by being abusive? These sort of stories, they fully expose the false ego if we are reflective. You see. Second, it intensifies the devotee's dependence on the Lord. It's very important for us to intensify our dependence on Him. And third, it makes the intervention of the Lord, the avatar, when He comes, when He sends His mercy, it makes it very glorious, makes it meaningful. It sets a beautiful contrast. It shows how swiftly and decisively and satisfyingly the Lord comes and resolves the situation. So this is the reason why, the Bhagavatam, we see these stories, why they occurred in history, why the Lord allows some of these things to happen. Now, we may ask ourselves, and every time we read Bhagavatam, we should always try to ask ourselves, how can I apply this in my spiritual practice, in my spiritual reflection? Sometimes we may feel overpowered by our own mind. Sometimes we're overpowered by anger, or we're overpowered by desires, or we're overpowered by circumstances that are beyond our control. I can't do it. I have to give in, or I give up. Either we give in or we give up. That moment of being overpowered is not failure. That moment is a prelude to divine intervention. It's kind of like the darkness before dawn, and we can really pray to the Lord, please come and save me from this particular situation. Because the real enemy in our life is the little Hiranyaksh sitting in our heart, the internal Hiranyaksh. The little Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu means what? Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means pillows or cushions, or comfortable life. So we want wealth and we want comforts. Hiranyaksh Hiranya again means gold, and Aksh means eyes. His eyes are always on somebody else's gold. Where can I take somebody? Aksh means eyes. His eyes are gone, golden eye, you can say. There's a movie by that name, I think. His eyes always looking for gold. Hiranyaksh, that's what it means. But is there a bit of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksh in my heart? In fact, when we sing that Nrsimha prayer, right? It says, Baher Narsimho, Hridaye Narsimho. My Lord Nrsimhadev, you are outside Baher. You please come Hridaya in my heart. We are inviting him. Every time we sing that prayer, we have to remember we're inviting Narsimha to come in our heart and find out, chase this Hiranyakashipu that's in my heart. He's also quite indestructible, and rip him apart. Because this guy is not dying day or night or inside or outside. It's so hard. All my desires, they're not dying that easily. It's almost like they have a boon. They have some kind of boon from Brahma, my desires, So my Lord, only you, Lord Nrsimhadev, can come in and completely rip him apart. Bahir Nrsimha, Hridaya Nrsimha. And Nrsimha Madim Sharanam Prapadi, I offer my surrender unto you, my Lord Nrsimhadev. So the real enemy is internal Hiranyaksh. This is not just a historical story. It happened in history, but it's not just that. Hiranyaksh lives where? In us. In the part that wants control, in the part that seeks dominance just for the sake of dominating people and feeling good about ourselves, in the part that resists surrender. These are our little Hiranyakshas. If we're lucky, we can think about and reflect on it. If we think we don't have these qualities, then we can find ourselves in denial. Look for them. When we're in conditioned state, some of these qualities are always there in some degree or another. Let's not be in denial about them. We want to control certain things. No, not me. I don't want any control. No, we do. I don't need dominance. Who cares about dominance? No, we want to dominate even a little bit. That little trace of dominance. It has to go. We're resisting surrender. That has to go. We have to really move towards surrender to Krishna. We should be honest in our reflection. Do I want to serve or do I want to control? Or do I feel invincible because of my abilities, my talents, my connections, and so on? Do I feel bulletproof and I can get away with stuff that I shouldn't be doing? Because I figured out how to cover it properly. I'm so smart. That's that hubris, the pride and overconfidence that comes with the ability to get away with it every now and then. Do I subtly compete with others? Do I feel envious of them? That is Hiranyaksh in the heart. Okay, fine. Then what do I do? What can I do about this situation? What can I do for myself as a devotee? Let's bring this home. Let's be personal. Because if this remains just a story about Hiranyaksha that happened millions of years ago in a distant place, then we have missed the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a mirror. We have to look at the mirror. And what is it showing us? Point number one, redirect your affection. It talks about Hiranyaksha so affectionate to his brother. Hiranyaksha was not inactive. Hiranyaksha, he was not lazy. He was not disconnected. He was deeply committed to his brother. He wanted to please his brother. His commitment, unfortunately, was misdirected. Misdirected commitment. Many people in the world are very committed, very smart. They're very noble in that sense, consistent, diligent, focused, intelligent, but their commitment is misdirected to the wrong goals. He wanted to please his brother instead of pleasing the Supreme Lord. The question for us is not that, am I committed? No, the question is, who am I trying to please with my life? Is it my ego? Is it my image? Is it my sense of external so-called security? Is it my relationship in this material plane? Or is it my commitment to Guru and Krishna? Because the same energy can either bind us or liberate us. So every day, we can consciously pause and ask, who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? And that one question can transform our entire consciousness. Hiranyaksha is clear. He's doing it for his brother. Are we doing it for our Hiranyakashipu? Are we doing it for our Nrsingadev? See, that's the first takeaway, is that ask, who am I doing this for? Second takeaway, see through the externals of power. Look through them. Hiranyaksha, he looked glorious. He looked gorgeous. Golden ornaments, powerful body, broad shoulders, fearless presence, confidence all around. People get elected to president just because they're confident, not because they're smart. Sometimes you see that happening too. The dumbest people become presidents just because they're just confident all the time. But people can't see past that. Fearlessness, all nice looks and golden ornaments, a powerful body. And if we saw him, we might be impressed. That is the danger. Because in this world, not everything that shines is spiritual. We are surrounded by influential people. We are surrounded by successful people, charismatic people. But the Bhagavatam is training our vision. No, don't fall for it. Always ask, is this aligned with Krishna? Or is it separate from him? Because something can look powerful and still be completely disconnected from the truth, like Hiranyaksha was. So we must develop discernment. This is the key, discernment, not cynicism. Oh, everybody in the world is nasty. All politicians are bad. Everybody, you don't develop, a grandfather reading the newspaper in the morning kind of attitude. It's not cynicism that we want to develop. We want to develop discernment. We want to develop clarity. What is the motivation behind these things? You don't need to lose your mind or make a face about it. We just need to see what is what and move on. And don't fall for these external trappings. That's the point here. See? So takeaway number one was, who am I doing it for? Where's my affection directed? Takeaway number two is, see through these externals. Don't get swayed by them. Takeaway number three, embrace your sense of dependence to Krishna, dependence on Krishna as your strength. Hiranyaksha had no fear, but why? Because he thought, no one can touch me. That is not spiritual fearlessness. That is illusory so-called fearlessness. Hubris, bravado. Real fearlessness is different. It is the devotee, the advanced devotee, who thinks, even if everything collapses in my life, Krishna is there for me. You see the difference? That is the deep fearlessness we want to lean back on every single time. When the mind starts making worst case scenarios, what's going to happen to my life? No, Krishna is always there for me. Even when the whole world around me collapses, Krishna is there for me. When Prabhupada's business completely finished, he didn't collapse. He just said, okay, fine, it's not a big deal. He moved on, he continued preaching. So externally, the demoniac fearlessness and the devotee fearlessness may look bold, but internally, one is standing on false ego, the other is standing on surrender to Krishna. That's the key difference. See? So in our life, instead of trying to become independent, we want to try to become deeply dependent on Krishna. And that dependence is the greatest strength. One thing that our brains are very good at doing is worrying about worst case scenarios. But in worst case scenarios, right? In worst case scenarios also, we should remember Krishna is there for me. I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but I know Krishna is there for me. That's the confidence that we want to have. Okay, and the takeaway number 4, trust the timing of the Lord. At this point in the story in the Bhagavatam, the evil forces are rising. The demigods are hiding. Hiranyaksha is unstoppable. And it looks like, where is God at this time? I thought he's supposed to come and save me. Where is he? And in our lives also, we may sometimes feel, why is this happening to me? Why is this not resolving? It's going on for week after week, month after month, year after year. Why is always injustice seems to win all the time? Bhagavatam teaches us this is not the end of the story. This is the setup. The Lord is not absent. He is preparing. So when our life feels overwhelming, we remind ourselves, Krishna is about to enter. We don't know in what form, how he's going to look, what the success is going to manifest itself as. But we know Krishna is there and he's going to enter. And that faith in the Lord, it changes everything. See? So let us step back now and see the full picture across time, across traditions. There's a pattern. There's a moment. The darkness is rising. The power seems unchecked, unstoppable. And righteousness, the good people, they feel very small and weak, and hope seems like it's not going to happen. It's like a distant thing. In the Western world, remember this Good Friday. A moment where it appears that it looks like that divinity has been defeated. The good people have been defeated, silenced, crucified. And then comes Easter. The reversal, the unexpected victory, the triumph of life over death. And the Bhagavatam is showing us the same eternal principle. Right now, in these verses, we're in the Good Friday moment of the universe. Hiranyaksha is rising. The demigods are hiding. Arrogance is at its peak. It looks like, this cannot be stopped. Everything is lost. Jesus Christ is dead. But we know something. We know what is coming next. We know the Lord will appear as Varaha. We know it. We know that he'll enter this chaos. He will lift the earth and crush this Hiranyaksha. This is not just cosmic history. This is our inner life as well. Because within us also, there are moments of Good Friday, moments where our lower nature feels overwhelming, our faith becomes weak, our struggles are very strong. But if we stay with the process, don't get defeated, you stay connected, call out to the Lord, continue chanting, then Easter will come, Easter Sunday will come, the resurrection will come. Krishna reveals himself to you. So today, let's leave with this meditation. When the mind says, I am so strong, I'm in control, I don't need to surrender, recognize that voice. That is Hiranyaksha. When life puts us in a place where we feel small and we look around, we feel uncertain, don't fear that moment. That is not weakness. That is the doorway for Krishna to enter. See? So let us choose not the path of this false ego and domination, but the path of devotion. Let's not choose the illusion of control. Let's choose the reality of surrender to the Lord. Let's not choose the temporary rise of our false ego, but choose the eternal victory of the spirit soul. That is our choice we have every day. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your kind attention and your valuable time. Now, I do have limited time today. I have to leave very shortly. So, but we can have a few minutes, I think about 10 minutes or so, for any comments or questions or interactions. Gail is always the first out of the gate. Gail,
Hare Krishna. Oh, boy. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful delivery. Yes, Prabhuji, like I said, we can't thank you enough for doing this service today, because it was such a very, very short time. we got in touch with you and you accepted to do this service. So we're very, very grateful. Mother Gail, please you me on mute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Oh, Prabhu, this class really spoke to my heart, especially when you're talking about the fact that even in times of fear, that's when we have opportunity to rely on Krishna's care for us. But I have a couple of questions about the about pride and arrogance. One question about it is, how is it that when Krishna relieves us of the burden of pride, why is pride, for one thing, a burden? And the other question I have about pride or arrogance is, we said that there is an insecurity behind arrogance. And, we see that in our common dealings among people, so that's kind of easy to see how that could be a masked insecurity. But in the case of people like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they really believed in their illusory sense of power. They didn't appear to be people that have insecurity at the root of their arrogance. So, can you clear that up for me? But especially, how is it that pride is a burden?
Yes. How is it that pride is a burden or even a bad thing? And this interesting question, because this is where you have an intersection of psychological and philosophical and personal all at once, in the Bhagavatam, because we feel it applies to us. We see it in other people, we see it in ourselves. Mostly we see in other people because we're all perfect. So, but but let's explore this carefully, because the answer is not just pride is bad. That's too simplistic, right? Why is pride bad? Why is it a burden? Not just a fault. We often hear, oh, give up pride. Why? Why should we give up pride? We have parades to show our pride. We have pride parades. I'm proud of this.
Yes.
Proud of that. So why should I, or even pride's not a bad thing. I'm so proud of my child. He did so good. I'm very proud of you. Inside the Prabhu, yeah, clapping. Yeah, I'm proud of you. It's not a bad thing. Why is it bad? Because pride is not just morally wrong. It is existentially exhausting, I would say. So, for example, I'll tell you this. What does pride actually do? When I am proud, Prabhupada says false pride. There's also good pride. I'm proud of the Lord. He's so great. That's not bad. We use the pride differently, but we're talking about the negative false pride. When I'm falsely proud, I'm internally maintaining a false identity. I am in control. I am superior. I am self-sufficient. I am so smart. But reality does not align with this identity, because all our I am this, I'm smart, I'm strong, this and that. These are energies borrowed from Krishna, and our pride blocks that out. I know it's mine. What do you mean? I deserve this. I created it. We want to block Krishna out. Pride means I'm blocking Krishna out. So what happens? I must constantly defend myself. Now you asked, what is the burden? Why is it a burden? There's a hidden weight that comes with pride. What is the weight? I'll tell you. The burden of always being right. Those who are prideful, they never say I was wrong. They'll never apologize. And it's very annoying, but that's the way they are. It's annoying as heck. They'll never apologize, never say I was wrong. No. The burden of always being right is a burden they carry. The burden of maintaining that status, the burden of comparison, the burden of control, these burdens. And most importantly, the burden of separation from Krishna. When we become devotees, even a moment of separation from Krishna is like 12 years or more. You know that, right? Yugayitam nimeshena. So, and if pride keeps ourselves facing away from Krishna all the time. That's the burden of separation from Krishna. Because pride says, I don't need you, Krishna. See, it is the one thing that really keeps us from turning away from Maya and turning to Krishna. It's our pride. I don't need anybody. And I don't need God. God doesn't even exist. Maybe it's good for going temple, nice culture, colorful things. It's okay. But there's no real God, you know? When Krishna removes pride, he's not taking something away. He's lifting this burden we didn't even know we were carrying. See? That's why great devotees sometimes say, Krishna was very merciful to break my pride. Because pride keeps us artificially inflated. And that inflation is inherently unstable. Now, by contrast, humility is actually light, the lightness of humility. Humility is not self-hatred. Humility means I don't have to pretend anymore. Thank God. My burden is gone. I don't have to pretend that I'm such a great devotee. I don't have to pretend I'm so smart. I don't have to pretend anything. When the pretension burden is gone, you feel light. When you don't have to pretend, you can depend. No more pretend. Now I start to depend. You see, I'm not talking about the diapers. I'm talking about anyway, depend. I can learn. I can grow. I can be protected. That is relief. You see. So now your second question about insecurity. Is arrogance rooted in insecurity? Yes, almost always.
But how did it manifest?
But it's not, but it's not always obvious insecurity. It is existential insecurity. Why? Because the root problem is the soul is tiny. The soul is dependent. The soul is meant to be sheltered. But the conditioned, proud soul rejects this. So internally, there remains a tension. I am small, but I want to be great and powerful. This contradiction creates anxiety, fear, restlessness. You see, actually, Hiranyakashipu was actually an anxiety. Just like Kansa. Kansa was in anxiety all the time. Krishna, where is he? He wouldn't sleep. The demons are actually in anxiety. And this insecurity manifests as overprojection of, dominance. Same thing with Hiranyakashipu. Of course, we know it's just a lila, but their true identity was covered up. So arrogance is not confidence. Arrogance is a defense against feeling small, against seeing yourself for who you actually are, feeling dependent on Krishna. That's what it is. So instead of accepting I'm dependent on Krishna, the arrogant soul says, I am powerful, I fear no one, I'm in control. This is called psychological compensation. You're compensating for actual deep insecurity. You're compensating for knowing that, So with Hiranyaksh, was it insecurity? Because at first glance, they don't look insecure at all. They're very powerful, highly intelligent, practically invincible. So where's the insecurity? See, when they want to dominate the universe, why do they want to dominate it? Because control is the antidote to insecurity. If I control everything, nothing can threaten me. But that reveals that they're feeling threatened. Another point, another clue, they're intolerant of Vishnu. All Vishnu devotees, I'm going to kill them. Why was so much hatred toward Vishnu? If they were truly secure, why would they be afraid? Oh, it's hating Vishnu. That hatred represents, because Vishnu represents true control, the true enjoyer, the true center. All this time, he's been worshipped as that. They know that he's worshipped like that. And that is intolerable to his sense of security. If he's supreme, then I am not. Therefore, I must kill him first. And I'll start by killing his devotees. You see, there are many clues to the insecurity, just manifest differently. Okay.
Thank
I
you
hope
very,
that
very
helps.
much. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, my obeisance to all of you. I really do have to get going.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for rendering this beautiful service. Of course, as always. We had some questions, but you have to leave. So we will reserve our questions for another time if by Sri Guru Krishna's grace, he blesses us with your divine association in the very near future. And with that being said, dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves. And we are with one heart, one voice, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our revered speaker, His Grace Madana-gopāla, for sharing his love and wisdom with us all today. Please, you may all unmute Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Pachapasario Biasicha, Kripa Sunduru Bias, Devas Jaha, Ashanam Balaj Nebio, Vaishna Devio Namo Namaha. His Grace Madana-gopāla Prabhu ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
His
Hare
confounder Acharya Srila Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki
ki
Jai.
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 and trust Srimad Bhagavatam class ki
Jai. Jai.
all glories to assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.